Okay, welcome to episode 14 of Public Trust Review. We're going to jump into what fair campaigning looks like and the code of conduct that is becoming of either a politician or a candidate. Tom, why don't you take us through this opening slide?
Right. So every candidate in California is given this code of fair campaign practices to sign voluntarily to commit themselves to honest, decent, and fair play during the campaign. And the reason for that is so that the people of California have information on which they can base their choices. And one of the first principle here, or promise, is that I'll conduct my campaign openly and publicly. I'll discuss issues as I see them, and I'll present my record and my opponent's record with sincerity and frankness. So you can be critical. You can't be critical and not tell the truth. You have to tell the truth when you're criticizing. So what we're seeing here is we've been talking a lot about the campaigns for Mr. Becker, Karen Hardy, and Raj Shahal. Now we wanted to look at the campaigns of Christian Palekia, of Larry McCulloch, and of Lisa Gilmore. And we want to start with this example, which is an open letter that Lisa Gilmore has written to the people of Santa Clara. And what we're finding here is an example of what that Code of Fair Campaign Practices was just talking about, that what's a critical question she asked, which is an honest question: does the city want to be managed by the NFL or not? Right. And if you look at this, she's sticking pretty much to the facts. She's presenting her record, and she's letting people know what's at stake here. And what she's saying here, I think that these are all backed up by facts. And the thing about abusive behavior, somebody might question that. I would say just go look at any council meeting, and you'll see examples that are not examples of somebody being respectful.
And we actually captured a couple of those examples in earlier programs where we showed one of the candidates attacking and accusing mayor in public session during a discussion about the grand jury. It was our grand jury episode when we talked about that.
Right. So we see examples of those, and you have here Ms. Gilmore presenting her record and what's important. What's important in that record is she attributes some of those things to herself and some to the council. The second one about what they did during the pandemic, that was something that the council did as a whole, and she can say it the way that she says it because it's true. The other part of this that I actually liked was the end of it when she's talking about the misrepresentation of the trip to Paris. She didn't go on a trip to Paris. She didn't approve a trip to Paris by herself for the city staff. That was done by the council. So,
well, I know, and just one other thing on that is, the whole council usually takes action on doing something. It's not just one person. And one of the things that came up at the council meeting when the grand jury report was presented was a anti-corruption plan that the mayor put out. And that was, debated about a little bit and pretty much initially dismissed as something, not the first step. The first step is to let's defend ourselves versus let's, here the mayor's actually putting something forward saying, let's actually set mechanisms up to make sure let's set up some guardrails so we stay on track, not let's defend about what the grand jury report says. Use that as a guiding light to show our actions going forward.
Yeah, to take it as an opportunity that the grand jury report is feedback to the council. And most people, when they're criticized, might immediately want to attack back. But there is a lot of good information in that report about how people perceive this council. And that would be something to work on and to act on. And that's described somewhat in this op-ed that appeared this morning in the Mercury News. And I'd encourage people to read it because it does present the choice that the city is facing right now, which is, are you going to support the voting bloc or are you going to support the non-voting bloc? And here it's presented as an independent council versus a non-independent council. And I think that that's a fair way to look at it and a fair way to present it. It's also important, I think, here to note that they're saying the three of them, Palekia, McCulloch, and Gilmore, have different views on many topics, because what people have been getting inundated by are flyers and TV ads and all the rest of it that claim that all three of them are cut from the same cloth. And that isn't true.
And this last little bit, I kind of pulled this out just to kind of highlight typically what's been, there's usually voluntary campaign spending limits. I think it's like 54,000 is the most that you're allowed to, raise for your own campaign or something like it's a modest amount. Right. And typically they're saying between $10,000 and $50,000 is what they typically spend on a campaign for a candidate. And the 49ers have spent almost $4 million on their behalf. And that is just a staggering number that we reviewed earlier today. And it's just something that we need to be reminded of, is that.
Well, and it changes the political culture in the city in dramatic ways. And it in many ways, the people of Santa Clara suddenly found themselves inundated by all of this 2 years ago. And now they're being inundated again. And it's hard to make a decision when you're constantly being fed lies. And that's often what this is.
And a lot of negative information. One of the things that struck me is children that look at YouTube and get bombarded in the city of Santa Clara with this and are associating a name like the mayor and all this negative information. They're not old enough to actually digest that and understand that. So that is just being imprinted on children, which is in itself is pretty disturbing that's how this goes about.
And I think it's important to remember this is a campaign for who's going to be best suited to present, to do public service. This is neighbors competing with one another for public service. And we forget about that. And we forget that this should be a hard-fought campaign, but it should be an honest, fair, and decent campaign.
And one of the lines in here I like, we feel like we're up against the Death Star. That is, puts things in perspective. Okay, that is it for